England is one of the most haunted countries in the world, not because of superstition, but because of history. Few places have endured as much war, execution, imprisonment, religious violence, and social upheaval as England's castles, prisons, manors, and villages. For centuries, these buildings were lived in continuously. Death happened at home, punishments happened in public, and memory clung to stone. What we now call hauntings are often places where trauma, legend, and documentation overlap, recorded by locals, historians, clergy, journalists, and in some cases, professional investigators. These are not ghost stories invented for tourists. They are sites with long, persistent records of strange reports, stretching back generations. Today on A Long Look, we look at 10 of the most haunted places in England and why they refuse to be forgotten. Number 10. Jamaica Inn and Bodmin Moor, Cornwall. Bodmin Moor is one of the most desolate landscapes in England, a windswept expanse of peat bogs, standing stones, and ancient burial sites. At its edge stands Jamaica Inn, built in 1750 and made famous by Daphne du Maurier's novel of the same name. For centuries, the inn was associated with smugglers, violent crime, and suspicious deaths. Staff and visitors have reported footsteps in empty corridors, objects moving on their own, and sightings of shadowy figures. More broadly, Bodmin Moor itself is infamous for ghostly lights, phantom hounds, and disembodied voices, phenomena recorded in local folklore well before modern tourism. One of the creepiest spirits is the mirror ghost staying in room 5, according to urban ghosts. It is the ghost of a young boy trapped behind the glass. Here is what a reviewer said. When I went to use the toilets, I was able to confirm the presence of a ghostly demonic entity which presented itself in the form of a stench of death. It was clearly angry, and I left quickly. Another famous spirit is a murdered smuggler seen near the inn, but other spectral figures include a weeping mother and shadowy men walking through walls. This is a landscape where the environment itself feels hostile, and stories have accumulated for hundreds of years. Number 9. Shrewsbury Prison, Shropshire. Shrewsbury Prison opened in 1793 and operated for nearly 200 years. Thousands were incarcerated here, many executed, many dying from disease, isolation, or despair. The most famous haunting centers on cell 210, associated with a violent poltergeist case in the late 20th century. Officers reported furniture moving, doors slamming, and unseen forces pushing staff. Former guards, not tourists, were among the first to file reports. Prisons are uniquely powerful haunted sites because suffering was prolonged, identities were erased, and deaths were often anonymous. Shrewsbury Prison is not a medieval ruin. It is modern enough that living memory overlaps with legend, making the reports especially unsettling. Tell me what you hear in the next clip. Number 8. Shepton Mallet Prison, Somerset. Often described as one of the most haunted prisons in the world, Shepton Mallet dates back to 1625. It housed common criminals, prisoners of war, those awaiting execution, and the most famous apparition is the White Lady, seen repeatedly by guards patrolling after hours. What makes Shepton Mallet stand out is the consistency of testimony. Staff members who had no interest in the paranormal reported identical sightings, often before knowing the prison's reputation. When people who work in a place, rather than visit it, tell the same story independently, historians pay attention. Number 7. Little Dean Hall, Gloucestershire. Little Dean Hall is built on land occupied since Roman times. Over the centuries it served as a Roman villa site, a Saxon settlement, and a medieval manor. Human remains were discovered beneath the structure, and the building later became infamous for reporting hauntings including a Roman soldier, a young girl, and a shadow figure. Unlike many sites, Little Dean's hauntings are directly tied to archaeological disturbance, a recurring theme in English ghosts lore. When old ground is broken, stories follow. Ancient Ram Inn, Gloucestershire. Built in 1145, the ancient Ram Inn stands on what locals long believed to be a pagan burial ground. Over the centuries, it has become associated with witchcraft trials, alleged sacrifice, and violent deaths. Former owners documented dozens of reported entities, including a high priest figure and ghostly children. Skeptics rightly note exaggeration in later years, but early records confirm the inn had a reputation for strange occurrences long before it became a tourist site. This is a case where myth grew from an older foundation, not the other way around. Number 5. Pluckley Village, Kent. Pluckley earned a place in the Guinness Book of World Records as Britain's most haunted village. It is associated with at least a dozen named ghosts, including the Screaming Man of the Brickworks, the Highwaymen, and the Hanging Schoolmaster. What makes Pluckley unusual is that many of these figures correspond to real recorded deaths, noted in parish records and local archives. The village's reputation developed gradually, not through a single event, suggesting a cumulative tradition rather than invention. Number 4. Blickling Hall, Norfolk. Blickling Hall is strongly associated with Anne Boleyn, born nearby in 1501. According to long-standing tradition, a headless ghost returns every year on the anniversary of her execution, riding a phantom carriage. While dramatic, the story persists because sightings were reported by servants as early as the 18th century, and the tale remains consistent across generations. Blickling is a reminder that political executions created culture aftershocks that echoed for centuries. Number 3. Hampton Court Palace, London. Hampton Court Palace is haunted not by one, but by several figures of Henry VIII's court. One of the most famous is Catherine Howard, who is seen running through the haunted gallery, screaming for mercy. The story originates from contemporary Tudor accounts describing her desperate attempt to reach Henry before her arrest in 1541. She was seized in the same gallery and dragged back to her chambers. What makes this haunting particularly striking is that later staff and visitors have reported identical sightings in the exact same location, a rare case where ghost story directly mirrors a documented historical event. Hampton Court is also associated with the Grey Lady, widely believed to be Jane Seymour, Henry's third wife. She is said to appear silently on the Silver Stick staircase, carrying a candle and dressed in white or grey, reflecting her death shortly after giving birth to Henry's long-awaited male heir. The Grey Lady's sightings are calm and mournful, in stark contrast to Catherine Howard's terror. Other reported apparitions include a large, imposing male figure believed to be Henry VIII himself, sometimes accompanied by the sound of heavy footsteps or the clanking of armour, as well as shadowy Tudor courtiers glimpsed in corridors and doorways. Together, these accounts have made Hampton Court one of the few places where multiple hauntings are firmly rooted in name historical figures, recorded events, and consistent locations, blending documented history with enduring eyewitness testimony. Number 2. Borley Rectory, Essex. Borley Rectory was once called the most haunted house in England. Investigated extensively by paranormal researcher Henry Price in the early 20th century, it became a national sensation. While some claims were later exaggerated or debunked, not all reports were dismissed, and the case became a turning point in the serious study of hauntings. Borley matters less for what was true, and more for how England began to document the paranormal systemically. Number 1. The Tower of London. No place in England has absorbed more blood, fear, and political violence than the Tower of London. Executions, imprisonments, and disappearances occurred here for nearly 1,000 years. Reported apparitions include Anne Boleyn, the princes in the tower, and Tudor guards. What sets the tower apart is the sheer volume of independent reports, stretching from the 16th century to modern yeoman wardens. This is not one story, it is hundreds. The tower is haunted not by imagination, but by memory. Whether ghosts exist or not is beside the point. We pray them rest. What matters is that these places carry layers of recorded belief, shaped by history, trauma, and repetition. England's haunted sites are not about fear, they are about remembrance. They show us where suffering was concentrated, where power was abused, and where stories refused to fade. And sometimes, history does not stay buried. Until next time, take care.